What's up, everybody? This is Craig Leonard from Craig Leonard Fitness, and I'd like to welcome you to the inaugural edition of the Craig Leonard Fitness podcast. I've been thinking about doing these for quite a while now, and to be honest with you, I've kind of put them off because I felt, just so busy with every other project I've been working on. But I finally pulled the trigger, and I'm really excited because I have a lot of good information that I'd like to share with you guys. I think this is another great way for us to interact with one another, or at least for you to pick my brain, and another way for you to engage with me, to learn how to improve your body, lose fat, build muscle, get faster, get stronger, improve your health, and just be a better version of you. And so my intention with these podcasts here are to be really actionable for you. I don't want them to be something that you listen for 30 minutes and you walk away not having anything you can take away from them. I want these to be short, to the point, maybe 5 to 10 minutes on average, where you walk away with real pieces of information, actionable advice that you can walk away and start using right away to improve your life. And so, with that said, here in the first edition, I want to tackle a topic that is very important when it comes to fat loss, but it's very often overlooked. And what I'm talking about here is your caloric intake, or more specifically, your caloric deficit. And so I know some of you are hearing this thinking, duh, Craig, I understand I have to induce a caloric deficit to continue losing fat. What most people seem to forget, though, is they forget to actually measure how much they're eating and how much they're expending, and have a way to actually objectively figure out how to continue to induce a caloric deficit as they go along progressing through their fat loss journey. And so when you start off on a fat loss program or a fat loss diet, or just changing your lifestyle in general, fat loss generally will come fairly easily and quickly. So especially if you happen to have a whole lot of fat to lose. So portion control can generally be enough. Maybe even quitting soda, quitting consuming alcohol. These types of things that by themselves might eliminate 1,000 calories or more from your daily intake, and thus induce a deficit and spur fat loss. Okay, but what happens after you lose that initial 10, 20, 30 pounds? The deficit is gone. So you have to rely on other things. You need to start eating fewer calories. You need to start exercising more. Okay, this is fat loss 101, right? This is very basic stuff. But so what I want to I guess the advice I want to give you, and you're going to hate me for this because it's something that people honestly hate to do. I hate to do it. It sucks. I understand that. But what I'm talking about here is counting your calories, or at least having a basic idea of how many calories you're eating on a daily basis and where those calories are coming from. And the reason this is so important, and I stress this in my book, Every 7 Days Fat Loss, I stress it on the blog quite a bit. I've written other articles for other websites and publications, and this is a common theme. And where this really becomes important is when it comes to plateaus, because everybody is going to plateau at some point. Anybody who is trying to reach an impressive level of body fat will plateau. There's nothing you can do about it. But that the difference between success and failure is not whether or not you're going to plateau. You're going to. The difference is knowing how to deal with it when it happens. And so this is where counting your calories, or knowing the amount of energy you're consuming on a daily basis, is such a crucial factor. And the reason this is so is that when your fat loss stops, all that is telling you is that your caloric deficit is gone. You are no longer maintaining a deficit, or it is so small that fat loss is no longer occurring on your body. Okay, so thinking of it in those terms, it's actually fairly simple to have a strategy going forward to continue losing fat. You need to either consume fewer calories through your diet, or you need to expend more calories through exercise and training your body, or both. If you can fit some extra time into your workouts, great. Add another 10, 15 minutes of interval sprints or treadmill work, even an elliptical machine is something to help you burn a few hundred extra calories. Most people that I know of, most people that I work with, they're already training at their max capacity. They only have their 45 minutes, their hour a day to work out. They commit to that, and that's fine. That's more than sufficient. So then these types of people have to rely on dietary modifications alone, which is perfectly fine. It's perfectly acceptable. But how do you know that you're reducing your calories on a daily basis if you don't know how many calories you were eating beforehand? So this is the conundrum that a lot of people find themselves in, and it's actually why a lot of people end up failing to reach their fat loss goals, because what ends up happening is they don't know how much they were eating before, so they have no way to know how to reduce that amount so they can get back to that caloric deficit and continue losing fat. So what do? They go to the extreme and they cut their calories by such a drastic amount that they know will guarantee that they'll lose fat, but it's not realistic. Not to mention that it will harm their fat-burning hormones. It will cause muscle loss, drain their energy levels. It could compromise their immune system and a whole host of other problems. So this is the reason that extreme diets don't work, and it's the reason that 99% of people who don't count their calories, when they hit a plateau, they end up failing, is because they don't have a strategy to deal with it. They don't know what they were eating before, and so they jump to an extreme. They realize it's unrealistic. They think because what they're doing to continue to lose fat is so unrealistic that losing their last 10, 20, 30 pounds just isn't in the cards. Okay, if you know how many calories you're eating, this is a very simple process. Okay, you're eating 2,000 calories a day. Your fat loss has slowed down or it's stopped, so drop that down to 1,700 a day. You will see fat loss. You can change nothing else but that. You continue to work out your 5 days a week, 4 days a week, whatever it is. Do the same types of workouts. Your training doesn't really need to be not modified when you're using this strategy. You simply drop your calories by 300 or so. I don't recommend going too much lower than that because the change starts to get too drastic. You'll be hungry. You might, if you go too far in a deficit, you might fall victim to all those things I talked about earlier, the hormonal problems, the muscle loss, fatigue, et cetera, et cetera. So once you have that strategy in place, it really is a foolproof system. The only thing that is truly required for fat loss to occur is a caloric deficit. It's a very basic principle, but people, for some reason, when they hit these fat loss plateaus, they totally forget it. The basics, the fundamentals all fly out the window. They start thinking they have to resort to these advanced strategies or no-carb diets, or any kind of other fad diet that you might have heard of. And so again, I understand that counting calories sucks. It does. It sucks. I can't stand it. I don't like doing it. And so you don't necessarily have to count your calories all the time. But when your fat loss stops or slows down and you want to continue losing more fat, it's a necessity. It simply is. If you want a way to lose fat without starving yourself, you need to know how many calories you're eating. So what I typically recommend people do, and what I'm recommending to you, is track your calories for a few days, say 2 or 3 days. Stick to a certain intake, say, just to use round numbers, say 2,000 calories. You will have an idea after those 2 or 3 days of about what 2,000 calories should look like, what it would be composed of concerning the foods that you typically eat. And then maybe you can stop counting calories. Don't keep a food log. Don't track what you eat for a little while. And as long as you're continuing to lose fat, don't worry about it. Then if your fat loss stops, start tracking what you're eating again. This time, lower it by 250 to 300 calories. Track that for a few days. Understand about what you need to be eating to reach that goal. Stop tracking it. If your fat loss slows down again, then you revert back to tracking it. Sometimes I even just recommend doing a sanity check. If you've been kind of following the same plan for a few weeks and you haven't had to track your calories in that time and you're still seeing fat loss occur, just spend a couple days or even just one day tracking how much you're eating just to see what your energy intake is, because that having that information at your disposal is very valuable, especially when fat loss.